All right, so your next assignment is all about moment, which is that third foundation of photography along with light and composition. Your task will be to take photographs that capture unique, difficult to repeat moments frozen in time. Capturing a good moment is probably the most difficult fundamental of photography to achieve, but in my opinion, it's the most important. I can forgive a photo that has less than perfect lighting and an imperfect composition if the moment is good. Not all moments are fast. Some moments are slow. They might take place for seconds or minutes, and they'd be just as special. As a photojournalist, I spend a lot of my time photographing people, but moments don't have to just be with people. They can be with objects, with animals, with landscapes. The famous landscape photographer Ansel Adams, whose photos I'm sure you've seen before, put lots of time and research into planning out his landscape photos because he wanted to capture specific kinds of moments with light streaming in through clouds in a particular way. He knew that he had to show up at this landscape at a certain time of day, at a certain time of year, in order to capture this one moment. To me, moments are what make photography special. I love other art forms like painting and sculpture where you have a lot more control over the tools that you're working with. But what makes photography special to me is the control that you don't have. What makes photography special is that it's not just an artist assembling something from scratch, but it's a collaboration between the artist and the light, the scenery, the subject matter that they're photographing. You're photographing things as a photographer that you have little control over, perhaps no control over at all. And that's what makes photography special. So your task for this assignment will be to make photographs that illustrate this theme, moment. It's difficult. Here are some tips. One thing you can do is build a composition and wait. You've learned a little bit about composition, and what you can do is build compositions with interesting forms, shapes, and lines, with maybe a little bit of space there for some sort of moment to happen. This photo by Henri Cartier-Bresson is a really good example of this. He went up and saw this staircase, he saw a really interesting composition underneath him, and he just stood there and waited for something interesting to happen, for a cyclist to bike past in the road. Another tip, sporting events can be great places to capture organic, candid moments that are really powerful. Even if you don't have access to sanctioned sporting events right now, even just like playing catch with family members in the yard can be a great place to capture candid moments because people aren't necessarily so focused on the fact that there's a camera right there. The important thing is just to make sure to get as close as you can. Another tip is just to spend time with your friends and family and capture candid moments with them. Tell them that you're photographing a day in their life. It takes a long time for people to warm up to the camera, especially when they're people you know. It's actually more difficult to photograph people that you know than it is to photograph complete strangers often. It might take 50 pictures or so, 50 times of them hearing that click of the shutter before they get comfortable, before they get so camera aware, and interesting, candid moments, natural, organic moments can start to unfold in front of you. Again, not all moments are fast, and they also can't be forced. The more time you spend behind the camera, the more you'll notice moments as they begin to unfold. You'll also need to take your time because from here on out, you are controlling all three elements of exposure in your camera: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. It'll take some time to get used to. You'll probably miss some moments because you're fumbling with the controls. That's okay. Eventually you'll get there and it'll be natural to you. That's the goal, at least. So here's some technical tips. Maybe the first thing you should do is consider what kind of shutter speed are you going to need to capture the moments that are happening in front of you. If you're photographing fast-moving animals, you might need that 1/1000th of a second shutter speed. But if you're just photographing like dinner with friends and kind of fun moments with your family, maybe 1/100th is going to be fast enough for that sort of regular human movement. So once you've got that shutter speed that you kind of think is generally what you want, go ahead and open up that aperture as wide as it goes. Just start there, and then if you need to close it down, you can. If you're starting to have issues focusing, maybe that might be a time when you can close up your aperture a little bit. The reason you want a wider aperture is because you want to be able to bring your ISO down as far as you can. Quality starts to degrade after certain ISOs. On many of your cameras, I would just say probably above 3200 or so is when you're going to start to see the quality degrade on your cameras when it comes to ISO. So try not to go above that. Try to stay low in that low 1, 2, 300, 400 range. And again, you can make this easy on yourself by not photographing at night, but photographing during the day, outdoors. I think it's going to make life a little bit easier for you if possible. I think you'll learn that the assignments in this class are not really assignments that can be successfully completed on the same time scale that you might complete assignments for classes where you're just writing papers. Because you can write a paper at midnight or at 12 noon, it doesn't make a difference. But taking pictures at midnight is very different from taking pictures at 12 noon. Keep that in mind as you think about your assignments for this class. So pick the right shutter speed for what you're photographing. Try to set as low of an ISO as you can. And in order to do that, you might need to open up your aperture as wide as it can go to a lower f-stop number. For this assignment, as usual, take no fewer than 50 photos. Think of this as a minimum. I mean, it'd be great if you were taking 150 photos. The people who are taking only 50 photos in this class will not take as good of pictures as the people who are taking 150 or more pictures. And you only need to turn in 5. Save those photos onto your hard drive using the technique that we learned from Bridge. Choose the 5 photos that you want to turn in through Bridge. Open them in Photoshop, convert them to black and white. That's the only edit you need to make to them. Save them into that submissions folder on your hard drive, and then submit those photos to Blackboard. Take your time with this one. Good luck and have fun.